How would you like to achieve your first million? And today we have James Kernan, which is the founder of Kernan Consulting. So James, tell us, what are the 5 steps to make your first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
So jokingly, I say, in order to make a million, you have to start with 10. It's always easier to get there when you start.
It's based on your blueprint, so let's...
No, yeah, in all seriousness, kind of the 5 key steps for me, honestly, Harry, would be, number 1, define my goal clearly of what I want to do. I'm a strategic thinker, so that's step 1 is the goal. Step 2 is really the detailed plan. What am I going to do to get there? And then 3 is really taking action and doing it. And that's where getting connected to mastermind groups, to communities, to people. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to learn from other people. And that peer action is so important. So taking action is the verb there. And then monitoring that success, monitoring what you're doing and adapting. That's probably number 4. And then number 5 is just that mindset of just persevering and staying focused. So many distractions. I'm in the technology business. There's like 500 data sources coming on. It's really to get distracted, as you know. So just staying focused and overcoming those challenges.
Okay, so James, tell us a little bit more about your technology business. You're a tech entrepreneur then? So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I've been at it for over 30 years.
Wow.
So as you could tell by my appearance, I started when I was 9.
Me too.
A little bit. Yeah. I'm a little older than that, but I've been at it for a long time. And the first half of my career, bought, sold, owned, or ran 7 different technology companies. The last one, I bought a little company in San Diego, 3 people for $30,000. I grew that to over 12 million in 3 years, and then I sold it. So I've been part of some really good teams, but I learned a lot about mergers, acquisitions. I learned a lot about leveraging partnerships, hiring and retaining great salespeople. I've always been part of really, really good teams. So those are some things that have helped. But, since that successful exit, I wanted to kind of pour back into the technology channel that was so good to me. So I formed Kernan Consulting 15 years ago and work with small to mid-sized tech companies. Again, I do a lot of M&A work, mergers and acquisitions, growth by acquisition. I work one-on-one with, normally half a dozen clients at any one time. And it's really revenue generating programs, business development. That's my specialty. So I'll work with them on that. And I also run the Mastermind peer groups. And I love doing that as well. But an opportunity for me to give back to the channel and help people find success like I've experienced.
So James, let's talk a little bit about tech, because this podcast, 5 steps how to make your first million. 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 entrepreneurs that come to these interviews, they are tech entrepreneurs. Yeah. So maybe the other one, the real estate, by the way. So it seems that tech and real estate is producing more multimillionaires than anyone else in the States and in the world. However, I think that we only hear in this podcast the 2% that actually make them starting a startup or bought a company, a tech company like you growing up and exit. Yeah, we never hear around the 98% that fail, and people might have wrong assumption that becoming multimillionaire in tech is easy, and I was saying that it's not. However, it requires a series of a skill set and a series of steps that if you jump one of them, especially in tech, it's really expensive, very difficult to come back to it. So step number one and we want your comment on that, based that you do have experience in tech. Um, One of the biggest problems that we face in not only in tech but in business in general. Yeah, um, I invest in tech companies and some of them, and we always find this particular founder, right, which is we can call it software developer, a product person, right, that they are very product centered. However, and put all the time, energy, money in developing this amazing product without knowing that 80%, a huge percent of the success of the company is going to be what we call it sales and marketing, getting this product market fit. So how you navigate and how you realize yourself that this company that you bought just for 30,000, that for example, if are you a software developer, or how you navigate this and how you took your product to market fit?
So the first technology. So there's, when you say technology industry, it's
Huge.
vast. It's huge. It's all over the map. And you're exactly right. There's more millionaires that have made their money in the real estate market, in the tech market, just because those are hot growing markets. They're not making any more land. So that's the best investment there for sure. But when I talk about the technology industry as it pertains to me, most of my experience really was on the reseller of services and goods. Like reselling Microsoft, Cisco, IBM. My company, when we were in San Diego, that little company that I talked about, we grew. One of our clients was that San Diego Petco ballpark, the new baseball stadium that went into downtown San Diego. My company was the one, Networks Plus. We did all the network infrastructure on that stadium.
Wow.
So that's an example. That was a big win for us that helped.
So how you found those clients, James? How you find those clients when you have a tiny company, nobody knows you, you're very small, and now a big client, powerful, comes to you, and how you number one found it, how you approach them, and how you can obtain that, a big client like this can work with such a small company. This is what the challenge is in the space.
Right. So to me, sales is easy. You just have to you need to be really aggressive and get yourself out there. Marketing is the oxygen of your business. You need to do it constantly. So when I bought that little company, we had 3 people. Nobody's ever heard of Networks Plus in San Diego. Mm-hmm. We had a small account base. My gifting, or all of my experience in tech, was sales and marketing. So we're really aggressive. We ran multiple marketing campaigns, from cold calling to emailing to direct mailing. We did a lot of speaking events, webinars, really leveraged my network. Because I had just left a big company and then bought this little company, so I was really leveraging these relationships. But so that's how we created more opportunity. The funny thing is that specific opportunity, Harry, came in the mail as an RFP.
Wow.
In most technology companies, if you get a solicitation that comes in the mail, it probably went out to 20 other people just like you. Most of the time you throw it in the garbage because it's a low probability of winning. And it was a sexy project. It was exciting. It was right up our alley. But I knew I needed to partner with someone, because at that time, I think we only had 8 people in our, so
it's a big job.
Why would a multi-million-dollar deal go with a little tiny company with 8 people? So I partnered with a big company, a big contracting company, that I could leverage them to do all the cabling network infrastructure. They were called Sim.J. Harris. They were the oldest and largest cabling contracting company in San Diego County. So together we looked a lot bigger and better. So I partnered with someone to really leverage their size and history. And we were the brains behind all the network infrastructure, the Cisco network infrastructure that we did. So we went in as partners, and we were the prime and they were the sub. But that's what it looked like. So
this is a fantastic way of doing it, right? Because and this is a very good advice for all the tech founders and people in tech that they are following and listening this podcast. like despite that you're tiny, this is a very good way to get a big deal. You find the deal, and then regardless that you're small, you can partner with a heavyweight company and send the proposal and the description, right? What part is gonna do your tiny company? What part is gonna do the big company? Now you're leveraging the credibility, the authority of that big company that actually is gonna make sure that everything goes fine because they're doing part of the job. Having a strategic partner is fantastic, right?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
But then, James, how even this big cable company, how you convince your partner? Because that's the other thing. Your partner is huge. You're really tiny. So how you made that conversation with them? Why they should listen to you in the first place?
They could only do one part of the project. We could do the other part of the project.
Absolutely.
They didn't know about the project in the beginning. So I
You
just
brought them to
convinced them
them.
that, yeah, I brought that to them. And more importantly, I said, hey, look, together we're better. Together we complete the solution instead of trying to do this individually. Let's go in together. And that's what we did. And it worked. And it's an easy, simple strategy for many tech business owners. Y'all got to start somewhere. And when you're tiny like we were, I had to leverage these partnerships that made us look bigger and better than we really were because I leveraged all the resources that these other companies had.
I think this is a brilliant. The other thing, James, that more and more, I'm saying people coming to this podcast, right? Nothing wrong with software developers and with tech people, but more and more we find out in this broadcast that the people that actually are becoming successful and multimillionaires in the tech space, some of them don't have, like very basic tech background, but they have become really, really good at marketing, sales, and listen to the clients and create that product that the client wants to buy and listen to the customers. Yeah. And the other software developers that become multimillionaires in this space, when I talk to them, they are so in love and so passionate about sales and marketing that they don't even look like software developer. I have an interview with one guy yesterday. He exited to tech companies, software developer from Canada, and the guy is speaking and he's loving marketing, he's loving sales, he's loving the strategy where the next lead is gonna come, and he's talking, and he's so passionate about it. I'm like, man, you don't look at software development to me. So I don't think, James, I think that maybe, right, we have, I think when we see Google, right, maybe, those guys, they are tech. And some people might have the assumption that, because not even Steve Jobs was, high-end of developer. It was, have certain background and everything and understanding more about product and bringing product to the market, but it was a Steve Wonder, which is really the tech guy, right? But sometimes, when we go to this space, we can have the wrong assumption or that, especially now with AI, right? So tech is expensive, software engineers are expensive, and they guys coming together, they create an amazing piece of engine, and because software is expensive, they put a lot of time, money, energy. They remortgage their house. They ask for money for family and friends, and they create this huge engine. And now, when they run out of money, run out of resources, now they want to bring this product to market, and they don't want to get involved in the sales or marketing or bringing that product to market. They are leverage this, they think to hire a sales company and to do that job and to sell the product, and it doesn't really work that way. That way, James. You really, the founders, they really need to understand the process, how to talk to the clients, how to bring the product to market in order for this to work, right?
Yeah, what you said there, Harry, is really important. You need to be good listeners. In order to be great salespeople and come up with the solutions, you really need to listen first at what their business problems are, what their business challenges are. And then in tech, we just architect a solution that resolves those problems for them. And I mean, it's really what we're all trying to do out there, and just be creative and resourceful. And again, like leveraging outsourced partnerships like we just talked about, or just coming up with something creative and new. There was another client of mine that had contacted me, and I remember they said, "Hey, come meet me at this address." And it was up in the industrial park, and there was this huge 100,000 square foot warehouse. It looked like the Houston Astrodome from inside, but there were pallets and pallets stacked of computer equipment. And it was just a hodgepodge of computers, printers, monitors. And it just was a junkyard of computers. And I said, what am I looking at here? What is all this stuff? And they were a medical tech company that put custom equipment out in the field all around hospitals all around the country. And when the help desk would diagnose and they couldn't fix it really quick, they would just send a new computer. And these were all the old computers that came out of the field.
It happens a lot.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this graveyard of computers, and I said, well, what are you going to do? What do you want to do with all this stuff? And they said, well, worst case scenario, we need to salvage it all and dispose properly and recycle it and destroy all the data, so we don't violate things. But more importantly, what about putting it back into service? So I was like, okay, let me architect a solution. And we came up with a program that we were going to take all the equipment into my office, into my warehouse, and we were going to test all the components. And let's just pretend each computer had 10 parts. We were going to test every part. And normally there was like one bad part, but 9 good parts. So we basically just refurbished. We called it factory refurbishing, and we would make it like new and put a warranty with it and then put that back into service.
Wow, amazing.
We were able to do that at a fraction of the cost of what the other vendor was charging for brand new equipment. And so I put together this return on investment synopsis, and I sent this back to the person that told me about it, but I also copied in a couple of the other executives. And I think we came up with a projection we'd save them $12 million in the first year alone. So we ended up...
And that have nothing to do with tech, James.
Yeah. Man,
that's nothing to do with software engineering. It's just being a good create a good business proposal, be aware about the competition, and win the contract, which I think you're great at that. So
yeah, well, they after 3 months of negotiating and talking, they said yes, and they hired our firm, and we ended up getting $6 million of business that very first year. And then that was one of the big things that catapulted our growth. And then I ended up selling the business when we grew to 12.
And if you go to universities or big companies, this problem happens a lot. I'm aware. Because, the people start to work in the laptop, they start to download softwares, and then, as soon as later the guy is going to say, look, my computer is slow and there is no time to fix it. So, okay, give me a new one. So what happened with this laptop? Goes to go to storage, to a storage space. And when you look those storage spaces, they are like you said, a graveyard, and basically new equipment. Just who knows? Could be even, because you have so many softwares or a virus or whatever, companies don't have time to have the resources to go and fix it. They need people working on producing, so it's cheaper and faster. Definitely it's faster to give them new computer for the people to operate, right?
Yeah, so that just was an example of kind of thinking outside the box, and it was kind of a blue collar approach to a white collar industry.
100%.
But we made lots of money, and more importantly, we saved our customer even more money.
Absolutely,
they loved us.
Yeah. So then, James, so growing a tech company in today's market, for all the founders, because when we bring tech founders in front of the investors, then venture capitalists and an angel investor, we often listen that the VC or the angel investor is saying to the tech entrepreneur, okay, come back in your next idea. And the reason why they're saying this is because, yeah, they do have a very good product, but still they're not putting the time, effort, and energy in what it's going to take to grow that business. I think that the investor, and then they come to me and ask me, Harry, wow, what that he means? I want the money now, because the is under assumption that, okay, let me develop a product, let me develop an MVP that I don't know, somehow the M gets out of the way, and that doesn't becomes MVP anymore. Minimum
Yeah.
value product. The word minimum, everybody disappeared that, and everybody wants the greatest product. And then because they want to keep building, now they're going to the investors. Okay, we need 1 million, we need 2 million because we want more money to develop. And the investors are looking at the founders and guys, but if I give you this money to develop and you develop an amazing engine, who's going to buy this? You haven't given me any indication. What is your route to market? Do you find any client? Do you have any idea about customer acquisition? Do you know how much it's going to cost you? Do you know about partnership? Do you have any basic knowledge about this? No. We just want the money. We keep developing, and people will buy it. And I mean, the investors are getting very savvy. They have been they had hard time, in this, especially, every time AI, .coms, and, every time there's something sexy come out of the space of this big evaluation. But the investors, right, they're getting very savvy now. That's the other thing that I get a lot, James, that people, they're telling me when I tech entrepreneurs, when I talk to them, they tell me, Harry, you don't understand. Tech is different than other business. You don't understand. Tech is different, and the more I see tech, James, the more it's more similar to my business. You have to be competitive. Look at you. Create a proposal that you're gonna win the game. If you're not clever enough to create a strategic partnership, it's not gonna work. So tech, James, we want to hear from you, right? Clearly, you have more experience than I do, for sure. So is it really tech different than other business, or what is it?
Well, to me, business is business, and there's a lot of other professional services. It's all people. People do business with people, so it's about relationships. It's about being honest with one another, being able to articulate your messaging and communicate properly. That's so important from a leadership standpoint, and then also confidence building and selling. You need to be confident in what your abilities are and what you're doing. But I will say, I think the tech industry is evolving and changing. And what I mean by that is the requirements, the compliance, the regulation, the complexities, the risk. A lot of clients I work with are those technology companies that are supporting these big companies and trying to prevent the ransomware attacks and the cyber attacks. They're protecting them, and that liability, it's only going to get worse. It's increasing. It's getting harder, and there's more and more government regulation coming down on both the end user customer and the technology providers to make sure they're trained properly and they're following appropriate best practices and procedures. So that part to me is really changing, and it's kind of, I'll just say it's separating the boys from the men, and you need to be very strategic. You need to hire the best possible people you can. You need to use the best tools. You need to do the best training, follow your processes to a T. Those are some really important things, I think, to separate yourself from your competition. And but because of that increased risk, you can charge a lot more, and you can make a lot more money if you're doing the right things. So that's how I see the industry changing.
Okay, now let's talk about the masterminds, because James, this is something, my first business was in property. Yeah, and I'm involved in property, and I'm also in tech. And
Okay.
But I discovered something amazing when I attended in London, based in UK, United Kingdom. When I attended in London, my very first property mastermind, and I made so many friends in that peer group, and it created a massive difference in my business. Even today, I'm talking maybe 15 years ago, the first time that I became part of the property mastermind, and it was fantastic. Number one, I realized, I thought that I was the only person in the planet doing my property strategy. Because, I saw that I invented that thing, and that, was going well. And when I started to the mastermind, I realized that I didn't invent it. That the strategy was actually very old. I just pivoted in a different way, and that was successful. I did meet other people doing the same strategy that me in other different parts of London, but I made also open the scope what was possible, because the only common thing that we have in this mastermind was property. But wow, everybody was doing it. There were people doing commercial. There were people to doing buy to let. There were people to doing multiple purposes. There were people building land. There were people doing a lot of amazing things, compliance. There were mortgage brokers. There were people lending money to hard money lenders. You name it.
Right.
They were part of that group, and that was amazing. I didn't know about the power of the mastermind. So I want to commend you to create this framework for entrepreneurs. I'm aware of how the power, but we want to hear from you. Why you create mastermind peer groups? Do you have also my same experience that mastermind was one of the amazing things that happened to you in business?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably mid-career, I kept getting a cold call from a peer group leader, a mastermind peer group leader. He was a retired executive from Western Digital. So he was a techie guy, but he kept telling me he wanted me to join a group in San Diego. This is when I was in San Diego.
And everybody was tech, right? A tech mastermind.
Yeah, well, actually, this is what was surprising. So I'm tech, he was tech, but all of the group, he kept saying that they represent different non-competitive industries. And I'm like, well, why do I want to be in a group with a bunch of other CEOs in that don't know anything about tech? They don't know what challenges I face. And I remember he goes, just come to the meeting. And he kept leaving voicemails for me. And I would just, I'm busy. I blew him off. And then he left a voicemail and he said something to the effect that, hey, my members have made a 2.5 times jump in revenue over the first 12 months because they joined our group. And I'm a numbers guy, and that stuck with me. I was like, oh,
100%.
okay. So I called him. I went to a meeting. Yeah. But Harry, to your point and my point on this, you learn from these other business owners.
Absolutely.
I remember there was a topic going around the table, and one of the guys across from me who is he was in the government prime contracting space, like DOD. And I remember he just said, we were talking about someone's problem, and his question to the other business owner was, what does your wife think about that? And I'm like, what kind of question is that? And then the more I thought about it, I went, oh my goodness, that is super smart. That's very smart.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. It's but it's a great opportunity. Masterminds are so important. Even though I facilitate all my mastermind meetings, and we get together every quarter for 2 days with all the mastermind members and collaborate and share. We share results. And we call it the good, the bad, the ugly. We talk about here's what my goals were for the quarter. Here's what I did. Here's what worked, and here's what didn't work. So, Harry, what a great learning opportunity for everybody to report out what they did, what worked, and what didn't work. And you're learning, what's working for other people, and more importantly, what's not working. So you can take that knowledge and quickly implement it without burning those sales cycles yourself. So just like I coach and consult in the mastermind group, honestly, it's such a blessing for me. I feel like I learn more from everybody else because there's a lot of smart people in our mastermind.
Absolutely. There were people
So
in
we
my
collaborate.
mastermind that they were traveling for 6 months. I'm like, wow, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were running the business in my sector when I could do that. People were doing amazing things. People, climbing Everest, traveling for 6 months. And I'm
It's
like, wow.
yeah. Yeah,
This
it's
is what is
fun.
possible. Yeah, you start to meet different people, and people working one one day a week, and having everything systemized and automatized. And so I did learn a lot. I got a lot of inspiration, and it gives you a little bit of perspective what is possible, because as an entrepreneur, especially. I mean, in my case, I went on the property. I mean, by accident. I think most of the entrepreneurs, we go in business sometimes by accident. We have a problem ourselves, we solve it, and we offer it to other people. We hear a lot of stories in this podcast,
Yeah.
that's a lot of ways that people started.
Yeah.
So you are kind of by accident. You have a product, you sell it, you make a little profit. Hey, you're in business. And now, you need to learn all this kind of stuff, about how to run a business, the accounts, tax. Then you think that you have to work 100% in the business more than anybody else. And after you find out that that's not the case, that's totally opposite. You have to make yourself obsolete in your own business in order and get out of the question. So you learn all this. You went into business thinking that, okay, this is how it should be, And the more you meet other people, you realize that, well, this is not what I thought. And there is another way of doing it. And this James learning, it never ends. The more people you meet doing amazing things, the more you learning and you feed from that, right?
In the mastermind groups, to your point, you learn, you collaborate, right? That's probably the biggest advantage. But number two, what a great environment to surround yourself by other growth-minded business owners that are trying to do what you want to do. So to me, it's really motivating. I'm motivated. I get excited when I'm around all these other business owners, and they keep me inspired, keep me focused, keep me motivated. And then we also hold each other accountable. If you say you're going to do something and you set your goals, then we're going to keep reminding you, here's what you said you were going to do. Where are you at with that? So we help hold each other accountable to make that successful. So there's so many benefits of the mastermind groups. I love them. And if it wasn't for that, Joe was his name. He invited me into that very first mastermind group. And then for years, I've run my own peer groups and mastermind groups, and it's really a lot of fun. And again, I feel like I learn more than I teach out there, and that's the best part of it.
And then the other thing, James, that we want to talk about is again how to the power of strategic partnership and mergers and acquisition. It's one of the most effective way to grow any business. And again, as founders, as a startup founders, either in tech or another business, this is something that is not common knowledge. I mean, you only hear people with knowledge about mergers and acquisition. You hear this only, big banks and or big financial people, often in the financial services. So, however, if this knowledge is brought to the masses, people could grow the business faster. So, any advice or any message that you have for the entrepreneurs going from 0 to 1 or growing the business, is it possible really for them being so tiny, trying structure partnerships and eventually mergers and acquisition that can accelerate the business? And if it's that, where can they learn a little bit more about this?
Yeah, so great question. There's a lot to that. The thing I would say is the very first thing you need to do as a business owner and entrepreneur is have that make up your mind what you want to do. And some people don't want to grow. They don't want to work. They don't want to grow their business. They're fine the way it is. I want to make sure the person makes the conscious decision in their mind. I want to grow my business. Okay. That's step one. Once you have that mindset, the other things kind of come together. I've always been fortunate where I would hire really good people, and I would attract and hire, the most I could pay them. I would attract really good people smarter than me. So it was the best of the best that came to work for my organization. So that was another key point. And I created a fun culture. I created a culture that attracted people to want to come here, and it also would keep them there. So I'm a numbers guy, and I love creating games, like gamification in your business. I made sure every employee that came to work for me knew exactly what their goals were and how they contributed to the top line goal. And we had a reward system, performance-based compensation plan.
Wow.
Hey, the more you did, I'm going to pay you more. So you can make $10 million here if you want to. You just need to sell $20 million worth of our services, and you'll get paid that much. So if you help me do that, I'm going to handsomely reward you. So we always created a fun environment that was numbers driven, but it was always a lot of fun. We did a lot of bonding events. We had co-ed volleyball team, co-ed softball, but a lot of positive energy. I don't know if you've worked in an environment, Harry, where people were negative. They motivated by fear. There was one company I worked for early in my career. I remember the owner made people cry. He would yell at them in front of other people, and I was like, I don't want to work in a company like that. I want to be the opposite, to motivate people to have fun and to be
We all
successful.
have been there. We all have been there. At some point, we seen it and we are like, wow. And on the other hand, we have been in other companies like, oh my God, I want to be like this guy. Yeah. I remember in Spain, the company that was working, that everybody's in suit and tiny, and then the owner is gonna walk with shorts and trainers, and he's gonna bring the dog, and everybody has to be friendly with the dog. The dog is running all over the office, and you better become a good friend of the dog. So so it was different perspective, how to run the business. So it's about, and again, the more you see Mastermind, the more you see in this peace group, the more people you meet, the better understanding you have about how to grow your business. So James, if people are in love with this conversation and they want to find out more about you, about what you do, they probably. So how can they find you? How this process works?
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. So I'm all over social media: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Just look for me, James Kernan, 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 or my website is KernanConsulting.com, all one word. So that's probably the easiest ways to track me down. But again, I'm all over social media, and I would love to hear from you. And if you've got a question or a comment on anything that Harry and I talked about, I'd love to chat with you.
Yeah, and what's the last message for tech entrepreneurs suffering? Tech entrepreneurs that somehow they're tired. They are thinking to give up. They're thinking that because they thought that this is going to be 100 meters run, and it's actually a marathon. And they thought that just to having a good product, to have a very good software, this is going to cut it, and without realizing that this is just starting, and is more to it, and they are falling. Because they have a big, they're disappointed because they didn't know that most come ahead, and also that they have to embrace, whether you like it or not, marketing and sales if they want to move forward and keep the company alive. So, what message, James, do you have for not only tech entrepreneurs but for entrepreneurs in general that they are stuck?
Yeah, this is for everybody. And first and foremost, never give up. Okay, and in a way to keep you in that spot. Number one, stay positive. be careful of reading too much of the newspaper or watching too much of the news, or surrounding yourself with negative people. Stay positive. Okay. So stay positive. That's number one. Number two is stay connected. Just like Harry and I are talking about the power of mastermind peer groups, stay connected to other like-minded people that you can learn from, grow from, stay motivated. You want to stay connected and get the information of what's working and what's not working out there. And third, and just as important, keep marketing yourself. Like I said, marketing is the oxygen of your business. You want to market every day on social media, on email, on public speaking platforms, on great podcasts like Harry's. You want to be marketing yourself, and you need to get out there, because don't just hope for the business to fall out of the sky and come to you. You got to go get it, and it all starts with marketing.
Thank you so much, James, and for all of you following our broadcast. See you in our next episode of Unstoppable: How Brave Entrepreneurs Like James Break That Wall and Achieve the First Million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.